Our political panel is back with me now. Grace Panetta, Jessica Post, and Reed Galen. Okay, y'all. The Inflation Reduction Act is now awaiting President Biden's signature. This is a historic piece of legislation. It lowers healthcare costs. It combats climate change, raises taxes on large companies and anybody making over $400K a year, and it reduces the deficit. A lot of people have been saying President Biden finally got a win here, but take a look at this graphic. I referenced it in my conversation with Jamie Harrison. We have it now. The White House is planning to emphasize that the president has delivered on promises that he made on the campaign trail. Jessica, why do you think Democrats are not getting more questions about this? And if they get the questions, do you think they've got the right answers?
I think so, and I hope so. I mean, certainly, I couldn't be prouder of what the president has done as a Democrat and as someone who is very proud of this administration. I do think that the Republicans are doing everything they can to distract from President Biden's accomplishments. They don't have any clear solutions, and right now in the states, all they're trying to do is continue to relitigate the 2020 election, and then put new abortion bans in place. So I think we need to break through and talk a little bit more about these national accomplishments. And look, at the state level, Democrats have done rebates and a number of other things. So my hope is that we'll continue to be able to talk about these wins as some of the products of them, declining gas prices and some of the other impacts sort of sink in for the American people.
Reed, let's talk about some of our Republican friends. The Republican friends in Congress, they voted against things like capping health care costs for seniors, capping the price of insulin at $35 for seniors. They have been smacking the White House around about inflation for months, and then they voted against the bill to curb inflation. So how do they defend that to voters in their districts? Or do people even know that that's what they did?
Well, they won't tell them what they did because, remember, it's all performance art at this point. There is no policy. It's all about making sure that they can drive down, as much support with suburban white voters, candidly. But I think also the huge import of the president's success here, and I think the Democratic Congress's success, is that it's proving that government can work. Remember that FDR, when he passed the New Deal, it wasn't simply about a bunch of programs that were going to support the American people. It was that democracy could work. And I think that the president and the Democratic Congress are proving that here, too, which is when people come together across, I think, a pretty divided, sometimes Democratic caucus, they can get things done and they understand that things can work. And I think you see that, too, in the president's approval ratings up, 10, 12, 15 points in the last 6 weeks. And so I think that this is a big deal for President Biden and for pro-democracy candidates who happen to be Democrats this fall.
I agree with Galen here. Grace, I am wondering, and I mean, this point that Galen made, that Reed made, I don't want to jump over it because the president has said this a lot, actually. We're in a battle right now in our world between autocracies versus democracies. And people will, the reason people forget to believe or are led to not believe in democracies is because they don't feel like it is working for them. And so, Grace, how do you think that the wins that the president has had over the last couple of weeks will shape Democrats' potentials in the midterms? And this point that the president has been making, do you think people are going to start feeling that?
Well, it is extremely consequential that Congress has passed so many of President Biden's priorities. It is remarkable that that's happened in a 50-50 Senate. And crucially, it's giving Democrats something to run on, an affirmative message, which is important in a midterm year when the national environment typically favors the party out of power and where voters typically want to penalize the president's party. So having these concrete things to run on, if they can translate them and get them across to voters, is something that will definitely influence the environment for them, possibly.
I have one more question for each of you, and Jessica, I'm going to start with you. What is your prediction for the midterm? Are the Democrats taking back the House? Yes or no?
Or holding on to the House? Look, I think
holding on to the House.
Okay. I think that we came in to this election of the DLCC very clear-eyed, but I'll tell you, we are seeing polling improve across the country. So I think there were big wins for the Democrats in redistricting. We are still very clear-eyed across the country about what might happen. But
is this a yes, Jessica? Is this a yes?
I think we're on a great trajectory to hold the U.S. House, yes.
All right. Reed, you'll have the last word.
I think it's tough. I think it's doable. I think it's more doable than it's been all year and maybe since the president took office. But we should not underestimate the fact that the Republicans will say and do anything to hold seats. I think it's a much better chance now, but I think it's still a tough climb.
All right. Grace Panetta, Jessica Post, and Reed Galen, whose name I love, which is why I want to call him every name he has. Thank you.